Oh, Rebel's moved as well, so you don't even get to look at Rebel. Right, so hopefully you can see me and hear me this time, and hopefully I am in the right group today. Should be a good start. So let's just make sure. I should have realised when I went on my own page. Oh, hello Bliss. As you can see, Bliss is a little bit more lively today. So is Rebel. There we go. Right, there you go. So we are, I think, we are absolutely good to go. Brilliant. Just need to turn this down. So we are absolutely. Just so I can see if any comments come through while we are chatting. So if anyone's on, if you can let me know that you can hear me okay. Just trying to see if I can see my microphone signal. So I think we can. So hopefully I am in shot and you can all go through. So if anyone's on that was looking forward to the one yesterday, I missed it. Unfortunately, for some reason, I had a bit of a brain block because I was running about with poor Blissy to get her to the vets, and she's going back tomorrow. So she's got to go and have an X-ray. You can't really see her, but she's just down here at the moment, and she's fully weight bearing on her leg, but it's still not right. So she's on light duties again. So she's in here. She's been sort of crate rested. I've just brought her out for a bit. You know, it's really tough having a Springer. Oh, hi Norma. Yeah, so hopefully you can hear me and everything's all fine. But yeah, so having a Springer and trying to keep her on rest and light duties is tough. But thank God that I did scent work with her, because I've been able to keep her confined, sort of isolated sort of down here. I mean, she's just currently laid at my feet. If I move the camera, you might be able to see she's just, hopefully if you can see that, might be able to see Bliss. There she is. There's the little girl. Good girl. So scent work has been an absolute godsend to do, because we've managed to tire her out, keep her mentally stimulated and physically sort of tired. So, you know, it's what it is, I suppose. And just trying to keep her off that leg, because anyone who's got a Springer knows that, oh yeah, they just like to run around like mental. And when she was hopping on 3 legs, she was still bringing me the ball and the toys. But we've done well the last few days. So fingers crossed that she is going to be fit and well, and it's obviously either just a little bit of a muscle pull or something like that, nothing more serious. But the concern would be that it would be cruise ship related, but we'll have a go from there. Anyway, right, let's get cracking. Not necessarily going to be a massively long one, but famous last words with me. So I just wanted to talk through building that. Let's just see if I can move that up a little bit. Sorry, get it more in shot. There we go. Hello, Rebel. Wanted to talk about. Hi, Sylvia. Yeah, got a feel for a Springer that can't spring. She wants to. Yes, hello, you pair. As you can see, quite happy to chew on each other still. Wanted to talk through sort of, if you do have any behaviour problems, how to look at that and then build your training solution plan. Are you really? I know. So how you can build that and work out where you need to start. For anyone who knows, that's Rebel making that noise. Okay, right. So the thing that often always surprises a lot of people is, when does the behaviour problem actually start? And That's so difficult to do. I might, you might have to go in your crate, Bliss, if you're gonna. Come on then. Come here. Come on, Bliss. Right. Oh. Go on. Hi, Nicky. Yeah. I find this fascinating, and I'm trying to do a live here, but you know, it's always sort of. Right, let's try anyway. So, careful, but. So it often surprises me when you look at a behaviour problem as to where it actually starts. So I'm going to run through a couple of examples for you, just common examples, but this can be applied to almost any behaviour problem, any behaviour struggle that you've got. Obviously, anxiety is slightly different, nervousness, fear, things like that. There might be slight changes, but sort of behavioural stuff that you see. So I'm going to be just sort of covering, you know, like loose lead walking, door protocol. This principle kind of applies for that. So pulling on when you're out on a walk to other dogs, all this kind of thing often starts way before we actually think it does. So the key things that you need to look at when, first and foremost, if you're going to have a go at sort of, you know, solving it yourself, obviously, and if you are going to look at solving it yourself, I always sort of say, you know, if you go on the internet and you Google the problem behaviour that you've got, you are going to get an absolute plethora of information, and you'll get probably 20, 30 different ways to deal with it. And you might try one and that doesn't work straight away, so you try another and you're just going to confuse the dog. So what I say to people is, yeah, if you go online, fine, there's some wonderful stuff online. Stick to people that you know and trust and you like their methods, and you can then have a look at some of those videos. Try to keep your search really concise and stick with it. So, you know, obviously for people who follow my page, you know that I've got a YouTube channel that has lots of videos, some instructional, some are just videos of us doing stuff, but they kind of show how we go about that. So it's worth sometimes just looking at those things. Just be very careful of going to Google, because you can get yourself into a whole world of hurt. Hi, Kirsty, yeah. It's quite off-putting, actually. Oh, my hand's stuck now. So yeah, so keep it nice and concise, and then you can at least stay on a similar track, and you're not going to get yourself confused, and the dogs aren't going to get confused. I might just leave you to watch these pair, actually. It's quite entertaining. So if we take pulling on the lead as just a common example, and please tell me if you can hear me okay over these two chewing on each other. So pulling on the lead, I often get clients ring me up and say, oh, you know, will you meet me, you know, at the park and go through loose lead walking? And in reality, actually, most of the time I won't do that. Simply because, dare I say it, the problem actually isn't starting at the park, and the dog's already over aroused way before you've even got to the park. And so you end up then trying to train and work with a client with a dog that is already overstimulated. And it can be really difficult, even for experienced, knowledgeable trainers. You know, I know myself, if Rebel has been stimulated because I've been either doing something in the back garden, or let's say I have a cat that torments Rebel locally, and it walks all the way down our fence panel, goes along where the log cabin is, and just sits and stares at Rebel. And I know that if he's seen that cat, probably, you know, 20 minutes before I go for a walk, the walk will be slightly more difficult than it is normally, because he's already stimulated and the cat has stimulated him. So when I know I've seen that, I don't really take him. I'll wait, I'll do something else, I'll play about in the back garden. So I tend not to meet people on first visits just in the park, because I don't need to see what pulling on a lead looks like. I don't need to see how bad it is. If the owner's telling me it's dreadful and nearly pulls them over, got no reason to disbelieve. I know what that looks like. Don't really need to go through that. So for me, it's trying to get owners to sort of go, right, what can I... Yes, Nikki, I know. It's terrible. Oh. Yeah, just be careful. Rebel, thank you, I know. Come on. Thank you. Out. Out. I know you love it, but unfortunately, Bliss's leg, I say, it's because it's potentially cruciate, I've got to be careful. So as much as I would have let you watch them play tug, I kind of, it's not very sensible to let her play tug. Well, she's got a bad cruciate. So where was I? This is going to be hence why keeping a Springer crate bound, nothing to do. I'm so glad that I did do something with her and she was chilled, but now she's kind of got second wind. Okay, so what do I need to look at? Oh gosh, here we go. I know. Come on, I'll pop that up there as well. Right, Blissy, come on. Go on. Good girl. I know. Apologies for this, guys. I am just going to. Come on then, in you go. We'll just pop her in there for a bit. Good boy. Come on, hop it up. Yeah, you're on monkey too. But Bliss, once you've had your x-rays, I don't even know, I say how terrible I'm talking to my dogs, but once you've had your x-ray, girl, and if there's nothing wrong, you can have a good old play session. And you can play tug with her as well, but not at the moment. Good boy. Right, so where was I? So on the walk, right. So just going out and meeting on the park and trying to solve the problems when you're on the park, you're making it really difficult for yourself. Just simply because the dog's already overstimulated, you're probably already a little bit frustrated, and you're trying to train in the middle of an overstimulated dog, in the middle of, say, a park with lots of dogs, and your dogs are coming at you all over the place. You're not prepared, you're not ready, you already are anticipating it not being good, so your mindset's not right. So that for me is just kind of not the way to go. So how do you set up your solution? So the first thing to do is obviously simply a notebook and, dare I say it, mobile phone, and set your camera up and just go, right, with walking. So let's say we're going to go for a walk in 20 minutes. So I'm going to look at my dogs and go, right, they're kind of chill. So that's fine. So I'm going to get my camera ready, going to set it up. I'm going to go in over and pick the leads up and just see what happens when I move from here to walk to where the leads are. And then once I've done that, I'll already notice that either my dogs have followed me, they've not paid any attention, or they've started to run around the room. I was talking to somebody yesterday and their dog will stand up, pace and walk to the door and just sit with their nose fixated on the door. So you can see already that dog is stimulated before it's even left the house. So you then go through all the process, and I'm jotting down, I'd be jotting down, right, okay, got up to walk to the lead, dogs got excited, or dogs followed me. Put my shoes on, okay, put my coat on, what did the dogs do? And I'll be noting down all these little points. And what I'll probably end up with is an absolute sort of page full of little bullet points. And I'll be seeing little intrinsic behaviours on each single bullet point. So once I get my shoes and my coat on and stand up, then I might see the dogs run to the front door. And of course, when you start seeing those behaviours, often as humans we'll go, I love that because my dog wants to go for a walk. They're excited for a walk. But in reality, that's not a good thing, because it means that their level of adrenaline and cortisol and everything is already high in the system. So when any more novelty comes, so whether that's cars, bikes, runners, other dogs, squirrels, the dog is already on an elevated state. So once you've got all those points, and let's say it's broken down into 10 little steps, I see each one of those as an individual jigsaw piece. So what we do is we train each individual one. And this is even before we go out for the walk. So the key element here is that we want to be leaving the house with a calm dog. So we work through each individual step on its own, and each one is a training exercise. And believe it or not, that list of 10 things could replace the walk for the day. Okay, so you can forgo the walk and train this. So all I would be doing then is we're going, right, I'm going to start walking, going up, getting my lead. If the dogs follow me, I'm going to put the lead down, come and sit back down, and I'm going to repeat that as many times. The great thing is for you is it gets your step count in. And the great thing for the dogs is they're moving, but they're also learning that then eventually they won't follow you. And if they don't follow you, then you can reward them. And you can then give them a second reward, which is the lead going on or the harness going on. Okay. I've spoke about environmental rewards and the power that you can have with environmental rewards. So if the dog wants to go for a walk, the act of the lead going on can be a nice reward because it means they're one step closer. But you're only rewarding sort of the calmness. And then you're going to train each step on its own. So you're going to do that bit on its own and then don't go any further. You're going to maybe go from there and walk to the front door. You may be going to start opening the front door, and you're going to go through all these little steps one at a time. And once the dog's calm with each one, you're then going to go and train 2 of them together. So you'll start adding little complexities and building it up. And then the idea is you're going to get to the front door. You're going to have a calm dog. Bliss has gone to sleep now. Don't even know why I'm whispering. But yeah, she's asleep. Or if I move, she'll probably look. Her eyes will always open. But again, just see if you can see her. Might just be able to see her. There you go. Nice and calm. Probably annoyed with me. But I'm sure she'll get over it. Oh, all right. Hopefully you can get that back in view. Okay. So the next step from there is to make sure, you're not going to see him. It's like my sound stuff is all in that bag. So then we're going to go through all these steps and the dog's going to get sort of a lot calmer, a lot more relaxed. And then we're going to set foot outside. And what you'll find here is that the dog is now calmer. Okay, because if you think about it logically, I've said just on this notebook that we would have had 10 steps. You might only have 5, you might have 20. But each one of those steps is a trigger to your dog. So if you go through them all quickly and then go outside, you've hit 20, 10, in my case, 10 trigger steps, okay? But by doing and training each one and then getting the dog to be calm, you go in, they're no longer bothered by all these little steps. So when you actually leave the house, instead of them being here at this level 10, they're at level 0. So you set foot outside and now they don't pull. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they won't pull again as you carry on your walk, because the idea then is that you have to train them that you're going to walk to the end of your road and then come home, and they're going to not pull and they're going to get rewarded for not pulling, and then you're going to go a little bit further. So you can see that over time, and when you're dealing with something like pulling on the lead, you have to look at the walks as a training walk, not your walk. Okay, there is a big distinction when you are absolutely working with any dog, that the training exercise is not in real life. You are trying to prepare your dog for what you want them to do when you go back to your full walks, and you can only do that a little bit at a time. So I say you'll start by walking a little bit further from your home, a little bit further, until you're back at the park and the dog's walking around nicely, because it's now learned that, okay, I can handle all the stimuli. Okay. By going straight to the park and not taking that out, you know, you're always going to set yourself up for a tough walk, you know. And And that principle applies. So I'm just going to go through. So if anyone's got any questions on that, just pop them in. Hopefully I've explained that well. As I was saying yesterday on the call, things make sense in my head, and trying to make sure I get them out in a way that people can understand. I'm going to see if you can just get Rebel back in shot as well, because there he is. Oop. Can you see him? There you go. Hopefully you can see Rebs now. There you go. Such a good boy, aren't you, buddy? So let's just take another problem and how we can break it down. So let's say, this is a really bad one actually, because it makes people feel really bad, but visitors. But actually now is a great time to practice visitors because we're not having any. So what we want to do here is, again, look at all the steps that happens. Now, if I said to you that when I go out on behaviour consults and I'll see, and they'll go, okay, what happens? Well, I want to stop my dog jumping up visitors. So that's what's presented to me as the problem. I want to stop my dog jumping up visitors. Fine. But when you go there, or even on Zoom calls when I said, well, okay, talk me through the process, they just start very much at, as soon as they walk in the door, my dog's jumping up them. And that's where they start. They start at the problem. So they start with the jumping up. So I'll go, okay, let's wind it back. Okay. When's your dog first know you've got a visitor? And they'll go, oh, well, not sure. So I say, well, think about it. What's your dog doing before the visitor arrives? So if you know that there's someone coming at 7 o'clock, and their car pulls up outside, what you just, oh, yeah. It's got, as soon as he hears the car, boom, that he's up. Now that could well be because he's actually identified the smell of that car and knows who's coming, okay? Dogs can identify individual smells of cars. This is why when people say, my dogs know when my husband, my wife, my partner's coming home, because as the car's coming down the street, the dog started to catch the scent. So there's some amazing things that dogs can do. But what will happen there is that the dog will predict who's coming. And now the prediction of what's going to happen starts to build arousal, starts to build excitement. So then they know the car's coming, so they get up. If they can see out the window, they might see. If they can't see out the window, they might hear the car door slam. Then it might be that you've got a gravel path, and so they can hear the footsteps down the gravel path. And then there's a knock at the door, or the doorbell. And I'll be going through all this and say, yeah, oh God, when the doorbell goes, they just go into a mad barking frenzy. Oh, and what do you do? Well, I'm holding the dog back and I'm walking to the door, I'm carrying the dog and I'm doing this. And the dog's just getting more and more and more worked up. And then you open the door and they're rewarded for all that behaviour with their very heart's desire, which is this wonderful visitor who loves them just as much as well, in most cases. And they jump up and they're having an explosion. So again, you get your notebook, you get your video, you sort of film it, and just so you can observe your dog, because filming your dog's behaviour is really important so that you can actually go back, slow it down and watch all these little subtle things. So you'll see, is the dog spinning? Is the dog running? Is the dog doing this? But you get all your little points down and you go, right, okay. And I've got like car arrives, car door slam, gravel path, door knock, I stand up, I walk to the door, I open the door, they see the visitor, they're jumping up. So now you start to see that your behaviour solution plan isn't number 10, which is dog jumping up on visitor. Your struggle solution plan, if you like, starts here with the car outside, with the car door slam. And so again, you have to break that down and then start training each individual element to go, right, I'm going to train my dog to be calm. So you're going to do something that we call resetting. So when they hear a car door slam, and that can be, go on YouTube, get your phone and record your friend's car door slam specifically, play it, see if they stimulate. And if they do nothing. They may stimulate for a few minutes, they may get excited. Wait for them to calm down and then say, good boy. And then the next time you play it on a lower volume so that it's not quite as loud. And then eventually what you'll be able to do is press play and the dog won't react. If it's a barking issue and the dog's barking, then what you can do here is play it on low volume. The dog barks and you can then start to almost interrupt them after 2 or 3 barks. Because I always like dogs to bark when you've got visitors, because I think it's nice for your dog to say, look, we're in here, just be aware, just in case you've got someone peering through a window, knocking on a window to see what's happening. If you have a stealth dog, you know, you want to prevent a break-in, something like that, have your dogs bark, but just interrupt them after 2 or 3 barks. And all that is you'll play a noise that starts them barking at a low level. And when they've barked twice, you can just sort of interrupt them and do that and say, you know, stop or shush, and reward them. So they get to bark twice, and it won't take long before they learn to bark twice. But we're going to break it all down into those little component steps and train each one. So that when you put it together, again, remember, instead of the dog going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, explosion, they're going to go calm, calm, stimulated. So you're going to slow it down, go back to calm, back calm again. And by the time the visitor walks in this time, they're calm. They're not at level 7 or 10. They're at level 1. And they just go, oh, yeah, someone's here. Okay, fine. They walk in. And you get no jumping up. And it is really amazing how quickly that can happen. Obviously, every dog is different and every dog will have a different stimulus level. So if you happen to have a wild cockapoo, it may be a little bit tougher. If you've got a slow, lethargic St. Bernard, you know, he may not jump up and he's just going to trot to the door and just go, oh, okay, you know, and go back. So again, the breeds do have an impact on certain behaviours and certain things. But you'll weigh that up with where you need to be. But the idea is that if you can just calm your dog down and train away from the solution, the problem you've got. So you're not ever going to train how to accept a visitor with a real visitor until the very end of your plan. So you're going to set yourself up to train this without anyone being at the door. So if you've got a family of people, eventually it will be those that are outside. It will be your kids pretending to be visitors, or you can, you know, save your recycling. You can be pizza delivery man, parcel delivery, and you can recreate all these situations so that eventually when you do have real life situations, the dogs will just be calm and chilled. Okay, so I'm hoping that makes a little bit of sense. So let's have a think if we can go into a slightly more sort of anyone got any other sort of type of problems? Never forget me meeting Diesel. Yeah, I mean, well, there's a prime example. You see that we take it nice and slow. You get a dog that's fearful of, you know, strangers and wary. If you take it nice and slow and sort of don't go straight in and expect to greet and let it all come down. Once you get to calmness, you then become friends, and you know, and that's really what happened. Obviously with Diesel, you know, it was he was just scared, and my presence was scaring him. So I have to just respect that and calm him down, rather than me wanting to go and stroke a dog and then put him into a position where he's barking and lunge at me. Break it down again, go through your steps. And now obviously I've been doing this a long time, so for me, you know, I do this in my head. But for anyone who is a dog owner, actually really looking at the problem and looking where that starts and ends is the real answer to most problems. So let's think about another what's the sort of common struggle there we can potentially break down in things. Anyone got any thoughts, any behaviour struggles that we could maybe break down? Let's see if anyone's got any. If not, we'll have a, I mean, there are many, obviously many types of problems. See if anyone comments, but if anyone's got anything, just pop a comment in and we can have a look at that. So let's think about, you know, you're on a park, the dog's actually quite nice and calm, walks around, but loves going into waste bins, finding people's food, and going through that. So where does the problem start? Well, obviously with that one, we know that we've got a calm dog. Pam's put one in there, so let's have a look. Oh, okay, we'll come back onto bin. It's a very similar one in a way. So barking at sparrows in the garden. Okay. So again, this will be, I suppose it depends on the context. I mean, is it just if they're in the garden and the sparrows come in, or is it so again, think about this. How does it happen? When does the barking happen? So is it that the dogs are in the house, you're walking to the back door, you're going to let them into the back garden to maybe go and do their business, and when they go out, there are birds there, or they can see the birds through the window, and then you open the door and they go out and bark? Or is it that they are already out there and the birds are coming in and then they're barking at them? So I suppose it really goes, you've got to look at the whole problem. So I'll sort of talk through a couple there. So I did one the other day. There weren't any sparrows. The dog just, as soon as you went to the back door and opened the back door, it ran out and then just ran around the garden like that, barking at the fence panels. Okay. And what happened was, it was just a cycle of events where as soon as they got to the back door, the dog's nose, again, was pressed to the door. And as soon as the door was open just a tiny little bit, the dog was pushing the door open and running through. And so it went into this cycle of events. So what we did was exactly, right, you're not going to go through the door like that. So as soon as you stand up, the dog's at the back door. So if the case with what Pam's just said in terms of barking at sparrows in the garden, is it that they're looking through the window? Is it that they're getting out to chase them off? Because the reward cycle that creates the barking is that they're going, well, some birds in my back garden. So you open the door, they bark at them, the birds fly off. The birds flying off is your environmental reward for a dog barking at the birds. And as we know, anything that is rewarded will continue because it worked. I told those pesky birds to go away and they went away. So the next time they see a sparrow, guess what they're going to do? They're going to bark. So now it becomes a repetitive behaviour because it's reinforced, and it's reinforced by the sparrows that are flying off. If they'd have stayed there, the barking doesn't work. So therefore you probably see the barking stop, but it's about breaking it down and how they go out. So for me, there's several ways to look at that and go, well, it's on site. So that means that if they're seeing them before we get to the back door, then I need to reward them quickly for any very, very quick sight of the sparrows. So that would be take them to the door, and I might even have a curtain across it so I can open the curtain ever so slightly. They see the birds, I close the curtain, I reward the dog. Okay, so it's very quickly, see, not see, reward. See, no noise, reward. And then I'll start adding duration to when they can see them. And then the idea is, can I get them to just sit and watch the birds and reward them for watching the birds? And then I might start opening the door an inch, opening the door 2 inches, and then I might take them out on the lead. And then when they see the birds, reward them for being calm. And if they do then bark, then I'll just walk in with them. So actually, the barking means that they don't get the reward of what they wanted because it's them that come in, and the birds, they don't see the birds fly off because we've controlled it that way. So, but you can again just break it down and just think, what's happening? When is it that they start barking? Is it at the point I open the door and they run out and bark? Or is it that they see a bird fly on a perch, they go from the living room straight to the door, watch it for a bit, and as soon as I open the door they bark? Or are they barking through the window? Look at every individual step. So Pam, I hope that helps. If not, just sort of, if you want to put some different meat on the bones, I'll look at it. But that's how you would break it down. So you would take it very nice and slow. And I say, have the dogs. I mean, I have a pussy cat in the back garden that torments Rebel. He's pretty good. I mean, he will bark a couple of times because that's what I've trained him. He can bark at things twice and then he stops. But if the cat stares at him, he will actually go and look at it. And I'll just call him to me and reward him for leaving the cat alone. And just go, look, it's normal. This happens. The cat's not bothering you and you're getting paid for staring at the cat. So if you pay your dog for staring at the sparrows, all of a sudden you can change that emotional condition response. So does that make sense again? But it's about identifying all the steps. So as you can see there, barking at the sparrows is the end result. What are they? And for you, Pam, that could just be one step, or it could be two, or it could be three. It could be, any birds that fly in, they just start barking. Well, if your dogs are then free to do that, and then the birds fly off, you're always going to have that reward cycle. And in which case, you're always going to struggle to train it, because the birds are training your dogs for you, which is always convenient with environmental rewards, that you don't need to be a part of that equation. So I hope that helps. In terms of what else is there? If you think about postman and shredding letters that come through the letterbox, it's kind of the same principle as the door protocol. The end result is different, but the process to get to that point is the same. So the end result of someone coming to the house, coming in, is jumping up. The end result of someone coming and pushing something through the letterbox is shredding the letters. So you can just see that it's the same process. You've just got to break that through. Okay, Pam. So like I say, hopefully that makes a bit of sense. But you've just got to break down each individual component. So what would be another one? So one of the classics is a puppy that, say, 6 o'clock every night, goes a bit mad and starts biting your hands, biting your shoes, biting your trousers, and is just being generally puppy. But, you know, for humans, we're ready to settle down, then we're maybe ready to get our dinner, to start finishing after a day's work, and puppy's just absolutely ready to go. So we've got two ends of the spectrum there. We've got us wanting to relax, and you've got puppy wanting to absolutely go into an absolute play session. So you get the two ends of the spectrum that are never going to go well. So you already get, book, and you can go, right, well, it always happens at around 6 o'clock. So then we start getting circling, we start getting picking up some toys and throwing. We start getting some, maybe just chasing after our feet. Then it goes into biting clothes, and then it goes into biting hands. So you've got your list of individual topics, and you're going to start trying to work at this very first step. And it's identifying those early steps that will always be crucial in how you solve behaviour problems. So counter surfing, again, the same principle. So like with food, going around the kitchen, break it down. Again, can't stress enough, set a camera up just before you do everything, and really look for the intrinsic things. So I know, just with Bliss, when I'm preparing my dinner, Bliss will follow me into the kitchen. If I take there's a raised bed on top of this crate, can't really see it, but if I take the raised bed in with me, Bliss will jump onto the raised bed, and I'll prepare my dinner, and she'll stay on there, and I'll probably have some treats, and I'll just be throwing them to her every now and then. Outside of that, if I don't put the bed down, she will come into the kitchen with me. She won't jump up on the counters to get the food, but she will go between the cupboard and my feet. And she'll be looking, and I'll be doing stuff, and she's like, is something going to fall off? So she's an opportunist. Or am I going to be the soppy dad that goes, oh, do you know what? I'm going to let her have a little bit. Okay. Now, because she's in between my feet and the cupboard, I'm not too worried about that. She's not jumping up. She's not trying to go on the counter. So I don't mind that. And if I step backwards, I'm not going to fall over. So she's not behind my legs. But to some people, that wouldn't be right. So you'd look at it and go, well, okay, what happens is whenever I stand up at this particular time, because if I do have my tea at the same time, I mean, I don't. Luckily, mine goes all over the place. But she would then follow me and go into that position. So I know that the trigger would be me getting up at 6:30 to get my tea on is a trigger. So I start working on me standing up and then not preparing my dinner. And I just then work through all those little steps to say, well, what do I want to do? And I think that's the other thing you have to focus on with a solution-focused plan is, right, there's no point trying to stop a dog behaviour because the reward cycle or reinforcement cycle is already there. So I need to train them what I want them to do instead, but I can only do that with a calm dog. So you can only train something new with a calm dog. You know, there's a certain, sorry, I should rephrase that, because there is what we call peak performance. So if the dog's too calm like this, I mean, obviously this is really chilled. Oh, hey, Rebel. So, you know, he's not going to train now. So obviously that level of calmness, he's not going to train. If he's too overexcited, so there is peak performance. And if you think about agility runners, you know, you need to get your dog to a certain level of arousal to run a good time. But if you look at a lot of agility dogs, you would class them as being reactive. When they go past other dogs, they'll be barking, because to run a fast time, they need adrenaline in their system to sort of get them going and get them motoring. So, you know, there's a fine balance, but obviously once you've gone over that point, if you were to take an agility dog that was over threshold, they could probably run like lightning, but they'd probably knock over every jump, and they might even do, I think, what was it, that video of that boxer that just started running and then jumped over the fence of the arena, you know. So it's just too stimulated to even concentrate. So there is peak optimal performance. So I'm just trying to think if there's any other sort of behavior. So let's talk about car familiarization. So dogs that start to get afraid of the car. Okay. So again, what we try and do then is we try and put the dog in the car and then work on trying to make them happy. But actually, if the process of being worried about the car happens way before that, well, they're going to be scared or worried, or if they're overexcitable for the car, they're going to be overexcitable even before you put them in. So if you pick up your car keys and that's a trigger, the dog can be stimulated by the car keys. So again, we jot down all the little points, go, yeah, you know, if I pick up my car keys, my dog's excited, because that means that we're going for a drive to, I don't know, the Peak District, the Lake District, your favourite beach, and the dog's like, yep, I'm loving a bit of that. So all of that comes through and just manifests itself with an overexcited dog. So we need to then break it down into those steps and train, right? Pick the car keys up, reward the dogs for being calm. Pick the car keys up, reward for being calm. Now I'm going to walk to the car. Okay, calmness. Now you're calm, you can get in the car. And then I might get the dogs in and out of the car with no issue. Okay, and not drive anywhere, just to have calmness in the car. I might play the boundary game in the car. So I'm going to really piece together this blueprint of a plan that goes, this is what we do. Now, if we're talking about fear of the car, I'm just going to let the dog make some choices. And every time the dog takes one step towards the car, I'll reward. If it takes 2 steps, reward. If it sniffs the car, I'll reward. If it puts a paw on the sill of the car, I'll reward. And then if it happens to jump in the car, we'll have a party. I'll drop loads of food on there. So I'm never going to push the dog to go, well, okay, they're scared of the car, so I'm just going to put them in the car and try and make the car nice, because the problem is happening way before I even get to the car. So if you imagine putting the dog on a long line and you sat in the car and the dog goes as far away from the car as possible, you already know that your dog's worried, or, I mean, that would be worried, because if they're running away from the car, I mean, if they run in and jump on the parcel shelf, they're too excited about the car. So you have the other extreme, but you can identify that what the trigger is, and that's what's important. The end result of a behavior, so the thing you will present either a trainer, behaviorist, or even go to a vet for a chat about, is the end result. And it's often important to understand the early steps of what triggers that, because routine, predictability are all particularly bad for dogs in most cases. I mean, some routine can work really well. Sorry, excuse me, I've got something in my eye. So some dogs, like a bedtime routine could be good, and it can get them never worrying about separation anxiety. But a lot of routine, it will always create this predictability. And if the predictability is of an exciting event, a worrying event, then you'll have a problem. Okay, because the dog will always start back chaining and will then start working back through. And that's why you get this list of points. And dare I say it, like reactivity on the lead to other dogs, which is again another common one. We will get presented as trainers with dogs that go, yeah, he's reactive to other dogs. So, but no one's thinking and telling you about what's happening before. It is just the end result. It is that barking and lunging at other dogs is what the end result is. But there is probably a load of other steps that we've missed before that. So actually the problem when we get presented with it is probably 6 months after the behaviour started, which could be as little as the dog's walking down a road, sees another dog come in, and they turn their head away. Most people would never even look at that because the dog's not barked, it's not lunged, it's not showed any fear signals, its head's just turned away. But that could be the start of your dog being worried about an oncoming dog, because this look away means something. Okay. And then it progresses from just the look away, and the dogs keep coming every day. And it's like, I've looked away and the dog's kept coming, hasn't worked. So now it goes, I'm going to stare. So now you get a fixated stare as the dog comes, still doesn't bark and lunge, just fixates. And we still don't ignore that because the dog's not reacting. So we're quite happy with that because dog's not barking, dog's not lunging. We don't need to feel ashamed, embarrassed by our dog's behaviour. And then eventually, because that's not worked, the dog will now start lip curling. So you'll get that little lip curl. And we might not even be looking at the dog because we'll just be saying, okay, it's still not reacting, so we're still okay. And then the next step is it now growls. And you're like, okay, it growled, but it's still not lunging, it's still not embarrassing us, it's just a little growl. And we're like, oh, calm down. And then the growl hasn't worked because the dogs are still coming. And now we get the lunge. Okay, and then we get presented with a problem. So if we'd have been able to start way back when, we'd have solved this problem a lot easier because it didn't have all this back chaining of events. So that's why it's really crucial for anyone that has a behaviour problem is really get into the crux of when did it actually start on that day. So don't try and second guess yourself on what triggered it. Think about, right, I've identified I now have a problem, and the problem that I've got is X. So all the things, when does my dog first show signs that that's going to be an issue? Is it, when I stand up? Is it when I sit down? Is it when I pick up the TV remote? Is it when I pick up my car keys? Is it when I put my shoes on? Is it when I put my coat on? Is it when I go to the dog cupboard? When is it? And when you've identified all those steps, you can start working on the very first one. Because the first one is quite easy, the second one is quite easy. And if you can solve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, often the final one, the jumping up, you don't have to solve. Okay. And this is the weird thing with dog behaviour, is that you solve all the bits before it. You don't have to solve jumping up because the dog doesn't do it because it's not overstimulated. So we spend a lot of time trying to solve the jumping up and working on jumping up, but the dog is still overstimulated, so the jumping up still happens. But if you solve the other bits, the jumping up stops. Hope that makes sense, because I think I've confused myself there. So, okay, what's Dawn say? So Dawn says, my cockapoo lies down when a dog's approaching, then jumps up when they are next to us. Okay. So again, quite normal. So the dog will lie down almost like a displacement activity to go, look, I'm no threat. I'm not going to do anything. And I take it the hop up is, like now I want to go play. So what you can do is actually then say, well, okay, rather than having them lie down, and again, that can then just build anticipation because the dog's keeping on coming to you. You could train, well, okay, what I do with Bliss and Rebel is to go, well, okay, the dog's coming. So before my dog lies down and goes into that lie down position, I'm going to maybe do something different. So I'll either play a game, I'll either play do a different position. So I might do leg weaves, or I might do a position called middle, and I might do that. I might do the hop it up game. So if I'm near a park bench, I might get my dog to hop up onto a bench, so that instead of them lying down, they're just doing something different, and it just changes that normal mechanical mindset. But it's about knowing when that happens. So even though the dog is lying down, so even though cockapoo is lying down, when does it first notice the dog's approach? So the lie down will happen, and again, so just to take that as an example, I'd be going, right, okay, and I'd be really watching my dog, and I might even a couple of times film my dog, and I'll film the dog in the distance and go, right, so we've got the dog there, the dog is 50 feet away. So dog 50 feet away, my dog is behaving normally, hasn't even looked at the other dog. At 40 feet, it's now looked. And then it's like ears have gone up, down, pinned back, whichever. It's staring, okay. Dog at 30 feet now lies down, and then it's watching them. Dog at 10 feet still watching them. 5 feet jumps up, and then it's play, okay. Or it's lunge bark, or it's run away. Okay, so whatever the result is. So now you know that your cycle of events starts at 50 feet or at 40 feet. Okay, and that's where you need to start working and changing it. So for me, it would be, rather than it staring at the dog and then going to a lie down, it's like, right, dog at 40 feet. All right, look at me, focus on me. And I'm gonna, again, it's not about using treats, or I could have a toy. The issue with toy and approach of other dogs and things is you're going to create arousal up, so that's more excitement. So I would probably go to food as my, particularly around other dogs, just to keep everything calm. But it'd be like, no, look at me, focus on me, feed with their normal daily food allowance. So now we're creating a cycle that goes, you see another dog, instead of laying down and watching them, you're going to turn around and look at me, and then the dog's going to get closer, then you're going to turn around, then you go to appropriate play or disengage. So I hope that makes a bit of sense, Dawn. Let me know if it does. But yeah, just change that cycle. But you're only going to be able to change that cycle at 40 and 50 feet in my example, but not when yeah, absolutely. So Dawn's just put the comment there, which I was just going to say, because when she's down, she won't move. Okay. So you can see at that point when she goes down, she's now at that point that we call threshold. So we have to work it back and go, when does she first notice the dog? And first noticing the dog is then when you'll do something that we call DMT. So DMT is just distraction, mark, treat. So you see the dog, you say, right, oh, you've done nothing. Well done, good boy, good girl. Look at me, here's a treat. You're changing that response then. And then by the time they look round again, the dog's a little bit closer. And often if you can get past, so even if it was a case of your dog lays down at 30 feet, if they saw the dog at 50 feet, but you could keep them focused on you until the dog was at 15 feet, you might find that when they turn round, they don't lie down because you've actually got past that area of arousal where they would lie down and they've gone beyond it, and therefore you don't get it. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, Dawn. So yeah, I mean, that hopefully has given you a bit of an understanding of, you know, how to break it down. If you need any more help or advice on that, you know, let me know. If I've not explained it too well, just let me know, and I can try and talk it through. It all makes perfect sense in my head. Hello, Bliss. You're woken up. Yeah, she's been a good girl actually, putting up with going into a crate. So yeah, so if you need any help or advice with that, just let me know, and we can go from there. So thanks for your attention, thanks for your comments. Hopefully, you know, I say we've made some sense, and I've been on the right group and right page today. So yeah, I'll be doing some more. So again, I'll put up some more times when we can do some live, some question answers. Hopefully when the weather gets better, we can start doing some live training sessions as well, so we can just pick a topic and go and do some bits and pieces. Yeah, let's just focus on that, and we'll go from there. So have a wonderful afternoon, and yeah, I'll see you all soon. Take care.